Shocking. Positively shocking.
So I suppose a common misconception is that Roger Moore's tenure as 007 introduced an element of camp and self-parody to the James Bond franchise, and that before he landed the role, these movies were actually mostly serious spy adventures. However, the moment Sean Connery's James Bond arrives at a drug smuggler's warehouse, disguised by using a fake duck on his head, obviously to then strip off his wetsuit and reveal an immaculate white tuxedo, any notion that we're in the real world of Cold War espionage pretty much gets ejected from the passenger seat. Now, for many people, this is James Bond, the yardstick by which decades of franchise entries have been measured. That also serious, cold-hearted agent we got introduced to in Dr. No, only 2 years earlier, remember, is mostly gone now and replaced with Connery having the time of his life with a script comprised almost entirely of innuendo and one-liners. Remember Q turning up with a makeshift briefcase in From Russia with Love? Well, here he provides Bond with a car that comes with machine guns and an ejector seat.
Ejector seat? You're joking.
I never joke about my work, 007.
In Goldfinger, the 007 franchise begins its mission of essentially daring its audience to take it all seriously and embracing its own ludicrousness. Let's take a look. So a quick bit of plot housekeeping. Here James Bond must track down Auric Goldfinger and stop his nefarious plan to detonate a nuclear device on American soil. Along the way, Bond learns that the villain's ultimate plan is to actually irradiate all the gold in Fort Knox, thus making his own personal stockpile skyrocket in value. He also learns that bowler hats, when thrown by evil henchmen, can smash through statues, and he also learns that you can actually get away with calling a major female character in your film Pussy Galore.
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
How times have changed. So with decades of hindsight, Goldfinger now plays like a 007 greatest hits compilation. Its style and themes, its imagery and plot ripped off and recycled and replicated ever since. It's the most famous of the James Bond adventures and the one that was so successful that its producers feared to deviate from its formula for decades to come. Now we'll take a look during the course of this video as to why this was and why I think it sits high up in the pantheon of not only this series, but action blockbusters ever since. So let's quickly start at the beginning. So Goldfinger would see the introduction of the little pre-credits adventure that we'd been teased in the previous films, but here it's supplied in its own fully fledged mini-movie. Now I do love this one. I think it perfectly sums up, in a few minutes, what we should expect from the film and the character going forwards. Now it's not long before 007 is hot on the trail of Auric Goldfinger, played by German actor Gert Fröbe. Frobe's dubbed by someone else here, but he's still a great presence in the film, even if his golden scheme is a little bit on the murky side. Along with his funky dastardly plan and his swanky new laser, he and Connery participate in perhaps the series' greatest and most famous exchange.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
As iconic as that is, coming hot on the heels is the presence of Oddjob, cinema's most famous henchman, the screen debut of wrestler Harold Sakata, again spawning an industry of imitators. Now the film jet sets from Miami Beach to Switzerland and ultimately back to the US, to Kentucky, where the Fort Knox finale takes place. Now investigating gold smuggling that leads to a gold repository and a dirty bomb, on the surface seems like it could be the plot of even the most straight-faced spy thriller. But that's where Operation Grand Slam comes in. In true 007 style, Operation Grand Slam sees Pussy Galore's flying circus, seriously, spraying knockout gas over Fort Knox, knocking out its military guards, thus allowing Goldfinger's private army to gain entry into Fort Knox and access the vault. Anyway, before your martini can be shaken or stirred, Bond ends up handcuffed to a bomb and ready to be irradiated along with the USA's stockpile of gold.
No!
So Goldfinger is almost more than any other Bond film a real product of its time. There's a Beatles reference in the film that I absolutely do not agree with.
My dear girl, there are some things that just aren't done, such as drinking Dom Perignon 53 above a temperature of 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's as bad as listening to the Beatles without earmuffs.
Some sexism that would certainly be frowned upon now.
Dink, say goodbye to Felix. Man talk.
And I love that the screenwriters apparently took Ian Fleming's book and filtered out all the least logical bits. Now, as daft as the Goldfinger film is, the book had Goldfinger buy a bomb from an American airbase, like you do, so he could blow the doors off Fort Knox and carry out an impossibly massive tonnage of gold. So with directing duties temporarily handed over to Guy Hamilton, Goldfinger's 100 minutes of iconic moment after iconic moment. That white tuxedo opening scene, a gold-painted, naked Shirley Eaton, Oddjob in his killer headwear, the laser between the legs scene. But are any of them more famous than the introduction of the most famous vehicle in the franchise? And a car up there with the Batmobile and the Ghostbusters car and the DeLorean from Back to the Future in terms of pop culture iconography. The Aston Martin DB5 is a thing of beauty, of course, and has been unmatched in the franchise since 1964. It's packed full of Q-branch gadgets, gizmos and defence mechanisms, and can apparently be driven at high speed into a thick concrete wall with barely a dent to show. Now, I did mention in my previous From Russia with Love review that film had the first proper Bond theme tune, but if I recall, you had to wait until the end credits to hear that one. Here, the time-honoured tradition of having the song play over the post-intro pre-movie credit scene is introduced as Shirley Bassey belts out Goldfinger. So Sean Connery by this point was James Bond, a typecasting that would never escape him. Throughout the 60s alone, he made 5 James Bond films, which is an unimaginable turnaround nowadays. Anyway, if you are a Bond fan, you don't need me to convince you to re-watch what is probably one of your favourite films in the series, one of the daftest and most enjoyable films of the 60s full stop, and almost 6 decades later still a piece of pure escapism. Go check it out.
So, I believe this is yours.